you should try that. And my first reaction was like, oh gosh, I don't really want to be doing that. I don't really know all that much about it. And I started doing some research online, and she was a commercial flight attendant. And I started looking at that path, and I said, that's a good path. It's something that I could do because I now have open free time. I have flexibility in my schedule. I don't have a family right now. But then I started looking into private flights because in my previous life, when I was married, I actually traveled private, and I experienced some things, and some things started clicking in place. And I remember thinking, when I had been on those flights, we had a flight attendant and she wasn't very happy. And I remember thinking, gosh, if I got a chance to travel the world and see everything, and all I needed to do was make a few people happy on this flight, I think I'd be a lot happier. And so I remember thinking different things, that the way she would do things or say things, I kept thinking of different ways that maybe I could do something a little bit better, but I wasn't quite sure. And I thought, man, I should try and look at that. So I started doing some research. And let me tell you, I'm very OCD. I do my homework. And so when it came to coming to a realization that I should probably get training and get certified to do something like this, I made sure that I did everything. I had spreadsheets, I had pieces of paper, pros and cons of all these different programs that are offered across the USA. And I live in Florida, actually. And I ended up choosing SkyAngels, which is all the way out in California. I definitely had some extra expenses in traveling, but I did it for a reason. Because when I did all of the numbers, when I did all of the research in the background, when I called them, when I asked them information, I asked the right questions, I found out what they were about and how much support they were going to offer afterwards, SkyAngels was the place I needed to be. Because I knew that I didn't have a network, and I didn't have the contacts that might be necessary, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And the rapport that I felt immediately when I spoke with the SkyAngels team was phenomenal. I felt immediately at ease, and I knew that they were experts. And trust me, I talked to all the other groups. And, I'm certainly not disparaging, but for me, the choice was easy for me to make. It was not easy for me to make financially. And I know that for some people, it's a challenge. It was a challenge for me. And so I knew that if I was going to make this investment, that I needed to have a return on that. And for me, the SkyAngels choice was the best choice because it offered me an opportunity to get that return. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, I knew that I was going to be expending some money and some time and some effort, but it was well worth it in the long run because I knew I'd be getting a caliber of quality service and training, as well as emergency training, the standard that you need to have, and then the hospitality that was bar none. So for me, it was a simple thing, and but it was not an easy thing to purchase. I'm really glad that I did. And I can tell you that with hindsight, even when I was going through the process, it was worth it. So I ended up choosing it. I flew out to California. I didn't know what to expect. I did all my studying, and I went through the training program, and man, is it hard. It's really, it is. And, it's hard in the ways that you need it to be, because I definitely felt challenged throughout the whole process. But what was really great is that I had a great group of I had females in my group. There are other SkyAngels that are men, but for my group, I had a group of females that we were very close, and we ended up staying in touch with each other and still support each other to this day, which is phenomenal. And it's completely unheard of in this industry, usually, to have that kind of rapport. But when I was going through the training program, it was vital that we all stuck together. We were all in this together. And Stephanie is very, very much knowledgeable, but she will also make sure that you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
so
I'll kick your butt, right?
Yeah, honestly, I thought, I was like, oh, this is a training thing. It's going to be really fun. And it was fun. There were moments that were fun. And then there were moments where that you had to perform. And she makes no bones about it. When you have your evaluation, you need to be on point. This is not a drill. It's not a dress rehearsal. This is real time. And the things that she does when she pretends to be a guest is so valuable. I can't even tell you how many times, I didn't even tell you this, Stephanie, but when you do, there's something called gum service where you give out, at the end, you give out mints and gum, and she would leave a gum wrapper, maybe something, some piece of thing. And I can't tell you how many times I think about her every time I pick up a piece of a gum wrapper, because it's real life. She makes it so real that when you walk out of that training and you have your certificate, if you have passed, then you are 100% capable of going on to your first flight and doing well. And that's really what happened, because I went from that training. I never had any other shadowing opportunity to do. And I went right in, and my first session, my first flight, I did phenomenal. And it wasn't because I'm, you know, a superwoman. It was because I had the training and I had all the tools and the checklists in place because of Stephanie. So for me, going through that training program, it was really putting my feet to the fire, but it was well worth it. So I came back from California and I said, oh, I've got my training certificate. And I was just waiting for all the job offers to come in. Yeah. I was like, this is perfect. People are going to be just banging down my door. I'm going to get a job. Super easy. It doesn't work that way. And Stephanie's very clear about that. She is. And she teaches you at the latter half of the training on what it means to go out and prospect, what it means to look for a job, what it means to network. She gives you those tools, but you have to take those tools and apply them. And I had been in a world where I didn't need to sell myself. I didn't need to put myself out there. And so I started to kind of get a little bit nervous. I made some phone calls very hesitantly. I shot some emails out, never got a response. And then I did what Stephanie recommended, which is going to every FBO, which is the private airports that they have in the area. And you go in and you literally hand them your resume and your business card, and you say, I would love to have an opportunity to wow your guests. And, you know, everyone's very appreciative.
That's so key, right? Is to walk in there and express how it is that you want to, you know, provide service, not that you're looking for a job, right? But that you have something to offer.
And that was the one thing I did learn in the training too, because you reminded us that there's so many people that could do our jobs potentially, but they wouldn't do it to the caliber of a SkyAngel. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to share that with them, to say, I have had specialized training and this allows me to go above and beyond what your guests are looking for. And they don't know that from the get-go. They just know you as another face, someone else asking for something that they might not necessarily have an opening for or an opportunity. Right. And so I created a portfolio. I had a folder. I went to Office Depot, bought really nice ones that were black and with gold trim, just like the SkyAngels. And I had all of the SkyAngels material that Stephanie helps you with the resume and the bio and all my certifications and my business cards. And I went in there, but I also upped the ante a little bit. And I always brought baked goods. So
you're so smart.
You know what? The way
without leaving a gift.
It's true. They might have thrown my resume in the trash for the brownies they liked. So, but what's interesting is that I went all over, and I can tell you the first time that I went prospecting, it was horrifying. And I remember it was pouring rain, and I'd driven 2 hours away because I thought if I'd start at the private airport that I would probably least likely go to, then I could make mistakes and then go back to my home city and nobody would ever know any different. Mm-hmm. And I pulled in and I sat in the parking lot for like a good half hour, and I couldn't get the nerve up to do it. I couldn't do it. And what's interesting is that I called one of my fellow SkyAngels, Tamara. I don't know if you remember Tamara. And I told her, and I was like, I can't go in there. And she said, you better go in there. She's like, I'm counting on you. You have got to do this. This is, you are ready to do it. And so that's another aspect of the training. I made friends and I made connections that I never would have. And we all supported each other. And so I got the nerve up to go in, and didn't come to anything, but I came back feeling like a rock star. And I started to feel more confident every single time I did it. And I made a game with myself. So I told myself if I could get 10 straight no's, then I get like a treat. so like I get to watch like a Hallmark movie at home, you know, put my feet up after a long day of prospecting, you know, have some hot cocoa. You pick things, you pick a little prize for yourself. And if you can get 10 no's, even if, you know, and nobody ever really says no. To be very fair, I'm making it sound very dramatic, but no one says no. They say not right now. And that's okay, because then you're in the file system, you're there. But I had to go to 10 different places every time I prospected, which made my time out there much more fruitful.
Right.
So that was my
How
little
many times
game.
did you go back to those places?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it got to the point where one, they would see me coming and they were like, oh, here we go. But they knew that I was going to bring cookies or brownies. So they were really excited. They would definitely tolerate me. And they're like, they would be like, oh, you again. And they're like, oh, do you have a flight? And I'm like, not exactly. That's why I'm here. But here's some brownies and cookies. And you cannot be annoying enough. And I know that sounds really bizarre, but in sales, you are selling yourself and you have to be persistent. And my persistence paid off. So I will tell you, I was doing this for 2 months easily. And I got really discouraged at times. I mean, I called it the hustle, grind, cry, repeat. And I would do that. And it sounds really dramatic, but I was so driven. I knew that I wanted this. I knew that it would happen. It just comes down to timing, and you have to be there. So as Stephanie will tell you, sit in the FBOs, just hang out. After you've gotten your no, go and rearrange your portfolio, hang out there, bring all your stuff, talk to the pilots that are there, really chat and can make connections, because that is really what helps you get to know the people. So one of the FBOs that I kept badgering was fairly close to my my hometown, where my home base. And I went there all the time because I actually liked one of the girls that worked at the front desk, and we had a little rapport. And she told me off the bat, she said, I don't do any hiring. I'm a customer service representative. It's not my thing. And the FBO, the private airport itself, doesn't do any hiring. Everybody has their own hangars and they do their own thing. And so
making connections with those people, right?
Exactly. And so I still kept saying hi because, we just still pop in, say hello. And one day I got a phone call from a pilot, and he said, hey, I heard that you had your resume on file.
That you're harassing the ladies at the front desk.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. And he might have mentioned that I had good brownies. So I think she shared them with him. So very smart of her. And he said, we're in a pinch and we need to have a flight attendant. Ours had an emergency and we've got nobody. He said, and so what had happened was the pilot has his own office. The company has their own office in that hangar. And he ran out to the front desk and was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I have to find somebody and I don't have anybody. And she said, she said, I've got a girl. And thankfully they had my information on file from like the first time I ever came. The rest of them, they all fell to the wayside, but she had it. She had a little sticky note on it. And so he went and took that and then looked me up online. And the other thing I will tell you is to connect and sign up for some of these job boards online. So I was on different job boards that he was able to search for me to see that I was legitimate, that I had that I had really put the effort out to be a part of it. The MBA AA, all of those things, those organizations really do help to legitimize things. Right. So he called me in for the interview, and the next day, and I showed up with my brownies, and he was so grateful because they were doing an audit and he had to stay in the hangar and he hadn't eaten lunch. And so it was a perfect timing. And I came in and sat down and he started asking me about my experience. And, one of the things Stephanie will tell you is don't lie. It's not good. Everything comes out. And so I was very honest about the fact that while I had not had training, I had not had experience, I had training, and I also had parallel experiences. So anytime you've been a waitress, maybe, especially in an upscale dining venue, if you've done customer service, if you've babysat or you've been a nanny, those things all come into play depending on the family and the group that you're going to be working with.
Right.
And those help. You need to be prepared to explain why you're capable of the job, even though you've never set foot onto a private flight as a flight attendant before. And it's easy to do. You just have to be cognizant of it. Think about where your experiences lie and the intersection of this job and your experiences.
Right. Yeah. It's so valuable. So valuable that you could share that. It just
brings and I think it's
comfort to the person who's looking at you as a prospect is, you know, can she apply her skills from her past to private aviation? Because you can teach the aviation side of it way better than you can teach the skill side of it. So absolutely. That was great of you.
Yeah. And I think that people often get intimidated saying, oh gosh, I could never go in because I don't have any experience. No one has experience when they first start a new profession, but people get hired every single day. You just need to make sure that you know the case and you can sell yourself in that way. If you have gone and been in the workforce, even if you've been babysitting or something to that effect, even lifeguarding, you have emergency training, go with that and work with that. You can spin things a certain way to make them feel confident that you're going to be able to apply the skills that you've learned in your other experiences. Yes. So don't be intimidated about that stuff. So I went in and he hired me on the spot. I think it was the brownies again. So that was wonderful. And I left and I got the position for one flight. And then the second I called my dad, I was very excited. And the second person I called was Stephanie. And I can't stress it enough, the fact that when you go through the training, it's not a one and done. She will help you through the entire process. You have to lean on her because she has expertise. And she gave me the right things to ask for, the right things to say in order to do a negotiation. So when I did my first flight, it wasn't just this one flight. It was, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do the next one, and then we're going to reevaluate, because I want to make sure that, you know, what my rate was going to be and what their rate was going to be aligned, and that if they liked me, then they might give me an increase. And I never had thought about that. I was just grateful to finally have a flight. So she's the type of person that will be able to help you through the negotiations and ask the questions or remind you to do things that you might not remember to do, because this is all so new to everybody. So what I did was I took her advice and we made a little bit of a contract, and it would be evaluated after 2 flights. And I went on those 2 flights, got evaluated, got the pay increase, and from there it was rolling. And so I can tell you,
pay increase. What did you?
How did I?
Yeah.
Well, so that was
when they hired you, they had a rate that was lower than you wanted, correct? And what you set your rate at. So
correct.
These were like trial flights where you agreed to their rate, but if they wanted you back, then they would have to agree to your rate. So yes. As a SkyAngel, right, because they had other flight attendants that they had hired at that lower rate, why did they think that you deserved your rate that was considerably higher?
Absolutely. And so I had told them from the beginning, like Stephanie was saying, that, you know, we would reevaluate. The reason that they ended up going with me and giving me more money, which is pretty unheard of in the market that I was in, is because I went above and beyond. And so on that first flight, I found out beforehand that my client enjoys chocolate. So a specific brand of chocolate. So I went and handmade chocolate brownies made with that specific chocolate. And I made 3 different versions, and I had little signs for them, and I positioned it, you know, and I gave it to them, and they were blown away. I not only did all of that, I did all of the SkyAngels tips and techniques that Stephanie will take you through that are above and beyond the standard flight attendant, corporate flight attendant doing. So you're paying attention to every single detail, whether the labels are faced this way or that way on your water bottles, making sure there's a consistency in your serving, how you serve, what you do and how you say it, who you approach first. And so I was extremely professional, and I also kept my ears and eyes open. And so on the second flight, we're landing in London, and on the way over there, he says, I'd really love some music. Do you have some music? Because he had some guests on board and he wanted to have some, entertainment. And I said, I apologize, sir, we don't have any. I said, if we did, what would we like to have? And what would you like to listen to? And he said, I'd like to listen to some Julio Iglesias. So I said, all right. So I got off the plane on London. I had about 20 hours in London, and it was like the middle of the night, and we get in and nothing was open. So that next morning I get out the crack of dawn and I'm pounding the pavement. I went to every single CD store, which aren't really popular anymore if you haven't noticed, and I hit every used and new CD store that London had, cleared them out of every Julio Iglesias CD. I got 11 CDs. And that was my date. It was my day in London. And I was so pumped about it. I could not wait to share that with them. And so I had that. And then the next morning, my guest and the owner of the jet really prefers Dunkin' Donuts. And I had done my research ahead of time. There's one Dunkin' Donuts in all of England. And I got in a cab at 4:30 in the morning, at a black cab. And I went all the way out there. And it opened at 5:30 in the morning. I was banging on the door because the guy was late. And I had like 11 minutes to spare to get back into the cab and get all the way back in order to get back in time for our flight. And I made him go, and I got every kind of donut I could. I got the coffee, and I walked into the hotel lobby where the pilots were waiting for me. I was on time, actually, surprisingly. I'd also stopped at another place to get sandwiches and everything. And I walked in there, and their jaws just dropped. And the chief captain was like, you found a Dunkin' Donuts in this town? I said, there's only one, and I found it. And so he was floored by that. And so I had the Dunkin' Donuts, I had the Julio Iglesias playing, and my jet owner walked on the plane, and he looked at me and goes, you're amazing. And that's all he said. And I was so grateful. And it just, that I could have just gone and gallivanted around London, had a wonderful time, but I knew that I wanted to make a good impression, and I still do to this day. I had somebody that wanted vegan, non-GMO cookies, and I went and found one in the Caribbean islands, which are really challenging to find. So, but I make these little challenges for myself, and everything's fried, everything. So it's crazy. So I found them. And so if you like the challenges, if you know that you can rise to them and you enjoy the opportunity to wow your guests, then this is a job for you. Not everything is going to be, as kind of abstract, but you can really do little things that make them feel so special and appreciated. And if they ask for it on one flight and you don't have it, make sure you try and get it for the next one. Try and really go above and beyond. And that's what I was taught. And when I started going through these training, going through these flights, I went on multiple flights and everything. And my hope was to get hired full time. And it finally happened. And when it did, I sat down with the captain, the pilot, that's the chief, and he said, Bridget, we've seen a lot of people and we've had a lot of people through our doors being our corporate flight attendants, but no one does what you do. And he said, you're such a team player. You help out even when you're not needed to. I help with baggage if needed, and I take the trash out. When we go into international places, I'll go and throw it in the dumpster. And he said, obviously the brownies don't hurt. So the brownies were honestly the clincher. But for me, it was really validating. And I was surprised to hear that other people don't go through the things that we do. We go above and beyond. When you've been trained as a Sky Angel, we go above and beyond, and it shows and it proves and it pays off. So for me, I'm very grateful that I went through that training, because for me, it's second nature to go one step above and anticipate needs. But there are other training programs that will not teach you that and will not help you with that. And it's not going to maybe necessarily get you to the place where I am now, which I have a full-time job. I get an amazing salary. I have wonderful health benefits, and I get to work for a family that is grateful and gracious, and I get to wow them every single time I'm on a flight. And every time I am on a flight, I consider it a job interview. So I make sure I do the best job I can. But I wake up every morning happy, and I never know where I might go in 1 week, but I go to Italy and Jamaica and Vegas and New York City and California, and it's wonderful. I get to be at these wonderful places, stay at lovely resorts or hotels, experience cities that I never would see otherwise, and I get to work with a wonderful team. But it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone through the training and hadn't done the SkyAngel training, which teaches you so much more. So, for me, I can't recommend it enough. I really can't. But I can also tell you that you can go through the training, and if you don't do anything with it and you don't take the tools and actually utilize them, you won't have a good experience. So you have to bring that hustle. And if you have that hustle with that training, things will go really well, and you could actually really soar high and enjoy an incredible lifestyle.
Wow, Bridget, that is such a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, it's amazing the effort and the time that you put in to every aspect of your new life and your new career. I mean, from spreadsheets before you even selected your training program, to knowing that once you were at that training program that it was game on and you had to put your best foot forward, and that there was no joking about it, because there was no guarantee that you would graduate if you weren't at the top of your class. And so, and I just love that you reached out to your sister Angel when you were sitting in the parking lot and just feeling like you couldn't do it, but knowing that you wanted it and just needing that support and that push to like get you out of the car. And I just love hearing those stories, because that's, what SkyAngels is all about. So could you just share like maybe one of your most favorite stories or destinations that kind of made you go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. This is my life. And then we'll go ahead and open up Q&A for our listeners to go ahead and ask questions from both you and myself.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have to be honest. I've had so many wonderful, wow, I can't believe this is my life moments in almost every place that I've traveled. I mean, just recently, I literally was in the Bahamas on a private island with my own private villa, and the water is just crystal clear blue. And I thought, I'm getting a salary being here. And I just, it was beyond me. Being in Rome, going through the Vatican on a tour of the Vatican, and then having amazing pizza and gelato afterwards, and watching the people go by and thinking, I'm in Europe, enjoying Europe and everything it has to offer, and I'm getting paid to do this. And for me, those moments of travel where I get to experience things and see different cultures and try different foods out, it has not abated. Every single time. I was in Jamaica 2 weeks ago. I'd never been in Jamaica before, and get to go to an all-inclusive resort, and everything is taken care of, and I could just relax, go snorkeling and see the world. And I get to do this because I can really wow my guests during a 7-hour flight or 3-hour flight, what have you. It's an incredible opportunity. And so there's never a dull moment. Even when I'm in Macon, Georgia, I found an amazing little restaurant that I was able to enjoy. I found a great boutique. I did some great shopping there, so I'll always find that. You can find adventure wherever you are, and the fact that you get to do it and have, you get compensated for it is mind-blowing. So I wake up grateful and happy every single morning that I get to be a corporate flight attendant. It's an incredible opportunity, and one that I don't take lightly. And I want to make sure I continue to have this opportunity. So I highly recommend it. It's an incredible thing.
Well, you're going to continue to be wildly successful because you are putting everything that you have behind what it is that you do, and
right.
That's that's how we survive and thrive in life, is just putting effort behind what we do and caring enough to please people, right? Because in the end, we're just creating this really lovely, you know, life for ourselves when we actually are interested in other people and making them happy. So yeah, I just love your story. It's just so inspiring, and I'm so happy for you to be our first live guest on SkyAngelsLIVE. Okay, so the way that the Q&A session will work is I actually need those who are listening to turn on their video. If you could do that for me, and or if you're really shy and you don't want your video on, then I need you to go ahead and just send me a little text message with your question, and then I'll read them for the group, and then we can answer those questions for you. So there's two ways. Oh, I see somebody. Hi. Hi. Okay, I'll unmute you. 1 second. Okay, go ahead, Shy. Hi, girls. Oh, look at you. You're so cute. Working out. You have to
cooking.
Oh, wait. Hang on. So do you have a question? You have to unmute yourself.
How do they do that?
If you, are you on your phone, or if you go down, if you scroll down.
If you tap your screen, and then you'll see the microphone.
Oh, we lost her. Shy.
Somebody.
Oh yeah, I do too. Is that you, Shy? I think that's you. Maybe not. Okay, now try. Tap your screen like Bridget suggested, and then a microphone should pop up. Oh my gosh. Okay, anybody else have a question that you can send a text also on your phone? I hear somebody. Oh, I think we actually lost Shy. She must have, in her effort to. All right. Well, maybe there are not questions. Their questions can always be sent to Sky Angels as well. You can reach out to us on our Instagram. We're always happy to answer questions that way also. Our Instagram, which I think most of you found out about this webinar via our Instagram, but it's fly_SkyAngels. Also, if this interview with Bridget made you excited about a possibility of you becoming a corporate flight attendant, and you think that Sky Angels is the right fit for you, and you were interested in attending Sky Academy, then I encourage you to pursue that dream. Do not sit on it. Act on it immediately. Maybe Bridget has something to say. I don't know. Oh yeah, she's raising her hand.
The old-fashioned way. Wardrobe had a question for me. It came up. He said, was I consulting while I waited for a job? And I think that's a really good question, because what I did, because I'm very practical, I did a two-tailed approach where I was going to and doing the prospecting and going face-to-face and sending things out, but I was also sending my resumes out and going on interviews for management consulting, because I wasn't sure how long the process was going to take, because it does come down to timing. So for me, I felt comfortable. I had a little bit of a cushion that I could spend 2 or 3 months not working, but prospecting and interviewing for both. But and I wanted to make sure that I had a backup plan in place if it was going to take longer, because I know there are some women and men that have taken like a year to find a job. It wasn't, fortunately, it only took me a few months, but it could take longer. You should have a nest egg. You should have a backup plan. You should be prepared that you're going to have to maybe wait for your dream to come, and that's okay. But you want to make sure that you have something in place so that you can sustain yourself and you're not really suffering to try and go through this. notice. So have a backup plan in place always. If you don't use it, great. If not, it's okay. And it says there's two, one about proper attire and can you choose your uniform? So for me, I work for a private person, and I see there's a question from Stephanie I might ask. I work for a private person, and they have certain colors that they have through their company that they use for their personal jet. It just happens to be royal blue, navy blue, and white. So I do not wear black, but black is the most standard color that you'll find. One of the tricks I learned, because I did do a few charter jet flights separately, is I will ask what the pilots wear, and if they wear a navy blue outfit or they wear black, you might want to try and match them. I think it's a respectful thing, and you can always, of course, ask them right out. I know that I had a charter company that gave me a very specific uniform, about 3/4 length to full length white button down with a black blazer and black matching trousers. Could not be separate, different color blacks. So you're going to find that out from your company. But when you go prospecting, I think the best bet, and Stephanie might have something else to share, but black on black is always very professional. I don't know, Stephanie, do you want to chime in about the uniform?
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, black is just classic and classy. So when you're prospecting, absolutely, because you don't want to be, you don't want your uniform to be overwhelming, where it's taking attention away from you and the skills that you're selling to prospects. And then also, I love, Brittany, that you asked the pilots what are they wearing, because even though you're a contract flight attendant, before you were hired on, you want to look like you're a cohesive crew, and the best way to do that is to match what it is that the pilots are wearing. So. Yes, I agree. Do you want to answer from Stephanie about the full-time work?
So I couldn't get the whole question. Do you have? I can't see
if you choose to be a contracted cabin attendant instead of full-time, is it harder to keep consistent work?
So great question. So you need to figure out what works for you. For me, my goal was to have a full-time position. It might not be for you. So to explain, I started as contract, as most people will typically, and because they want to figure out if you're the good fit. And contractors only get paid while they are on flights or on a trip. So it can be inconsistent. You may have a call for somebody that wants to book you, but you've already committed to someone else, and so you've taken that trip, so you can't take that one. Another one might overlap or not overlap, or you might miss out on opportunities, or you might say no to opportunities, which is pretty rare. You don't want to say no. It gives
Why don't you want to say no, Bridget?
Sorry?
Why don't you want to say no when you get called for a flight?
Because they won't call you again.
You're not reliable.
You're not reliable, and if you say no enough, nobody calls. And so while you're a contractor, you have the freedom of flexibility of trips, so you can pick and choose, but you can't be too choosy until you really have built up a clientele. I'd say even then you can't. So it is unpredictable, and it depends on the market. I'm fortunately in the Miami market. It's a big market. There's a lot here. There's a lot up north. There's in Teterboro. There's some out in California. There's a lot. But if you're in a lower market, a different market where there aren't a lot of options, you cannot say no, and you should be available whenever. Now, I've gone full time. That means that while I'm on salary, I have to be within 2 hours of the airport 24/7, and I have to have a go bag. I mean, I have a go bag right next to me, and if I go see a friend, that go bag goes in my car, and I'm ready to go at any time, because they can call me at 2 in the morning and I have to be there by 4 a.m. They can call me at 2 in the afternoon. I have to be there 4 p.m. Doesn't matter. Now, fortunately, my owner of the jet, he's very flexible, and he usually does do advance notice. But if you go full time, you have the wonderful opportunity of having a salary and benefits, but you also have to give up some freedoms of your flexibility and time. So I also work with Stephanie too. I talked to her about when I negotiated, you'll negotiate time off, and that's important too for your sanity and for everything. And I'm happy to chat with that offline. I know that there's some, there was a question about rates that just popped up, and it varies by market. So I don't know if Stephanie, if you want to address the rates question.
Sure, I can go ahead and go on that one. So this question is from iPhone. I don't know who the name is, but so the starting rates, like Bridget said, varies from market to market. And what we mean by that is like Florida versus Texas versus LA, San Francisco, New York. All of those are like hub markets for this industry. Not that you can't fly from anywhere, but if you're considering this career, you don't necessarily have to relocate. You just need to make sure that you're near airports that have private aviation activity. So that's just a little side note. But typically, I think the lowest rate that I've seen is about $400 a day. And again, that varies from market to market. The highest rate I've seen, unless you have a specialized skill, is $650 a day. But if you're bringing in skills like you're a professional chef or masseuse or something like that, then you get paid a little bit more. Then you can get paid up to $1,000, $1,200 a day if you're bringing in a skill set like that with your career. So I think that answers the first question. The other question that iPhone had is, what would you tell your old self in order to prepare for this career? Bridget, I think that one goes back to you.
That's a great question. Oh my goodness. Perseverance, determination. You need to, I would have told myself that you can do it. I think I explained a little bit, I was at a crossroads in my life where I wasn't sure if I could embark on a completely different career path. Know that if you go through the Sky Angels training, you are more than capable. If you have gotten that certification from Stephanie, if you have passed, then you are more than capable. You are enough, and you are going to wow your guests. And so it's a matter of having that confidence. And that is something that's going to be portrayed to your guests, that when you're standing there and they're asking for something that you don't necessarily know 100% if you can provide or not, you can say, I will get right back to you and I will figure that out for you. And you will have it maybe not for that flight, but the next flight. So I think it's a matter from me. I need to tell myself that I was enough and that I was able to do those sorts of things for that, for that guest. And so that was me.
Yeah.
There was a question about specialized skills just now.
Yeah, let me add really quickly to what you were talking about. I would also, if you're thinking about joining SkyAngel Sky Academy, the thing that I would encourage you to do is, if you're not already preparing your own meals, is getting very comfortable in the kitchen. So start cooking and preparing all of your meals. Get very comfortable with food. Get very comfortable with how food tastes together. And also practice your speed in which you do it, because speed is absolutely essential in this industry of preparing food really quickly, serving food really quickly, and all of that. So if you're thinking about SkyAngel Sky Academy, that is your little hint on being successful. There was another question before we go into the specialized skills, but I'll just go back to that since we were talking. Specialized skills, like I mentioned, are if you're a masseuse or a personal chef. Those would be specialized skills that would increase your rate, or maybe you're a nanny or something like that. And so you're working as a flight attendant and a nanny, then you're going to get paid more per day. And again, based on how well you negotiate. And again, that's where I come in to help negotiate the best salary for you based on what it is that you'll be doing. Stephanie had a question about having kids and can you do it? I'll go ahead and answer this one. Yes, don't let anything stop you, especially if they're teenagers. It sounds like they can probably be left at home. If they can't be left at home, just have a network. Have a network of a few people that you can call last minute for them to come and check in on your kids, or your kids can go over there. And yeah, don't delay on your dreams. I mean, if it's something that you really want to do, where there's a will, there's a way. And there's tons of moms that do this job or this career, and there's pilots also that do this career with kiddos. I'm a furry baby mom, and I just have a network of tons of people. Bridget is also. So different than kids, I get it, but also you're responsible for something. So if you're getting called last minute, you need to obviously pass that responsibility onto a very solid network. Do you want to add to that, Bridget? And then we're going to
Yeah, it just, it takes a village, and you just have to have some mechanism in place that you can have somebody check on them. Little security cameras, if they're teenagers, those little security cameras where you can interact with them, you can talk with them. It's a great saving. I know that I have another flight attendant friend, and she has that, so she can watch what's going on and interact with them. For me, I have a dog, and so I have a great network that I can call at a moment's notice that can come in and take care of her, because I do get called out last minute. So it's definitely doable. Don't let things get in your way. You have to think about whether or not it's an excuse or a block, and then you have to, if you really want this, it's manageable, and it's well worth it. I got to tell you, it's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. All right, so that wraps up our Q&A. It looks like we don't have any more coming in either. So I just wanted to share again, if you're interested in joining SkyAngel Sky Academy, just talk a little bit about our application process. We vet the students that come through our training academy because we are looking for people who are driven and passionate to succeed in this industry and are going to put in 110% effort into not only their time at SkyAngel Sky Academy, but also in their industry. Our big thing is that our success is dependent on yours. And so if we don't feel that maybe you're the right fit for the industry, then we won't accept you into the program. And that's a win-win for both of us, right? Because it is an investment to join SkyAngel Sky Academy, as Bridget touched on earlier. It's $4,500 to attend the training academy. And so if we don't think that you have the right skills right now to be successful, then you won't get accepted into the program. If we do, through our vetting process, it's a two-part process. The first part is our written application that's online, and you just complete that written application. We review it, our Sky Ambassador reviews it. And then if you pass that first step, then we invite you to do a virtual video with us, which is basically an interview where the two of us and the Sky Angels and the candidate, we get to meet you. And again, we do some role playing and stuff like that, just to make sure, again, we're trying to figure out if you have the skill sets that are going to make you successful. Because we can train some things, and other things are innate, or like I said, start cooking and preparing foods for yourself at home. That's really a big one. So we go through a two-point process. So it's the written application that you can complete online, and our website is www.flyskyangels.com. And once you're on there, click on the Sky Academy tab, and underneath the Sky Academy tab is great information. I encourage you to spend time on that tab researching us and making sure that we're the right fit for you before you apply, because there is an application fee of $75 to apply to our company or to our training program. So spend some time there on the frequently asked questions page, on the blog. You'll get more stories about being a Sky Angel from Sky Angels that have graduated our program. And then the second process after you complete that online application would be that virtual face-to-face. Once you're accepted into the program, then there's an online training, and you get a maximum of 30 days to complete the online portion. And basically the online portion of our training is setting you up for success during the practical training. So it's introducing you to all the curriculum that you need to know in order to be successful during your time at SkyAngel Sky Academy. Because once you come to SkyAngel Sky Academy, we're going to be spending all of our time on hands-on training to make sure that you're set up for success like Bridget was. But once you attend SkyAngel Sky Academy, there is no guarantee that you'll actually graduate our program unless we see that you are putting in the time, the effort, and the commitment to give it 110% effort when you're there. Because when you're out in the industry, as I think you've all learned from Bridget's story, if you're not putting 110 effort into not only prospecting, but then once you actually get your foot on that aircraft for the first flight, then it's highly unlikely that you will succeed in this industry. And again, it just all comes down to you and how much that you want this industry. This career. So that's our whole process. And then you graduate, and then you're welcomed into this wonderful Sky Angels family community where you're going to have all the support in the world. You know, Bridget talked about her sister Angel Tamara that she reached out to. She's reached out to me. We've also have a whole network where you can just text each other. We have a private Facebook page as well, where we're just constantly aiding in each other's success. And I think, Bridget, you even met a Sky Angel who picked you up at the airport, right? Can you just spend a minute?
Yeah. We all keep contact. We really keep, even though they're not in the same training class that we were in, we all keep close contact. And there was a Sky Angel who's flying into Fort Lauderdale. I went up and met her, and I had like a little goodie bag for her because I knew she was going to have to airline back home. And so I got a chance to ride with her, take her to the airport. We caught up. We were like trading secrets and, you know, our little like trade secret stuff and talking about best practices. And it was wonderful. So we actually still keep in contact. And she actually texted me right before this, and she said, good luck. You know, I'm thinking about you, because we were always in contact. And I've spoken to about 4 other people. We've been trying to connect as well. We're going to have some networking events as well in our area as well. So it's wonderful to have that sort of support system, because you do not find that elsewhere. I can guarantee you that. I know with 100% certainty that Sky Angels is unique in that respect, that we are supportive and cooperative, and it's a great support system to have.
I love that. By the way, just off topic, I'm going to be in your area March 21st to the 25th, and I wanted to put together a Sky Angel social when I'm there.
Love it. So
done. Offline, you and I will plan that. But these are some of the fun things that we do at Sky Angels, because it is a community, it is a family. Like I said, I have furry babies, so all of my students become my children, and I just love when I see them fly the coop. Sometimes I get a little sad, like empty nest syndrome, but they always end up coming back and like telling these fun stories. So it's always really nice. Well, thank you everybody who joined this call. It was such a pleasure to see you all on board. And I'm pleased with your questions, and I hope that we answered them all. And again, if we missed any of them, you can also, on our website, there's a contact button, and you can just send us more questions that you have, or we're really active on Instagram, so you can send us a message and we'll answer your questions there as well. And that's it. So thank you so much, Bridget, for sharing your story.
My pleasure.
Inspiring.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, go to www.flyskyangels.com if you are interested in joining our family. And we look forward to seeing you. We have our next training coming up in April. We only hold those 1 week out of the month. So if you're interested, we have a few more spots available in April. However, you do need to sign up for it 2 weeks before the program starts, because like I said, there's the online portion and some practical drills that you need to do prior to coming to Sky Angel Sky Academy. So let's see, Sky Angel's April training begins the week of April 16th. So we hope to see some of you on the call here in our April training. All right. Thank you, everybody. Wishing you a wonderful night. Thank you, Bridget. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.